So I figured while we're in the off season, maybe some fun off season content to make could be of some historic players of years past, and one of the guys that jumped out at me that would be fun to make a video on is Charles Woodson. And no need to talk about it for 10 minutes, I'll instead just go straight into the breakdown, and we'll start things off with a play like this. This is what Woodson could do quite often. This is when he was in Green Bay. Ironically, you can make the argument he had the best season of his career playing in Green Bay, even though he obviously had a ton of great seasons in Oakland. But one of the things he would do very well is be that man coverage corner that could do a great job at covering up other players. Like on this play, it's going to be a cover 2 man that he's in, and that's going to be the route that Woodson is going to be in charge of covering. And so just looking at it on paper, you see that this is a great route against this type of coverage. It's cover 2, so there's no help over the middle, and since it's going to be cutting over the middle, this now means that it should be a good angle for the quarterback to be able to make this throw, and there should be some separation right after the ball is snapped because it's a good route against this type of coverage. It cuts quickly. However, Woodson does a great job of not getting fooled when there's a little move early on, and if you look, there's not a ton of separation right here, but there maybe is some. You know, you can definitely see a perfect throw being complete, and it seems like worst case scenario, Woodson would have to just slap the ball away to knock it down. And, you know, if you're a quarterback, you're thinking maybe a DB wouldn't even want to take that chance because if he does try to slap it down and misses, then that could be a huge gain since it's man coverage. There'd be nobody else to try to make a tackle. So he is going to try to make this throw, but watch how Woodson is able to not only get a hand on it, he catches it. He's able to get the interception by being able to lunge out like that. And that's kind of what made Woodson so great, was he was the cover corner like a Darrelle Revis type, but he could still make those breaks to get interceptions like a Richard Sherman, which is why he's, you know, without a doubt going to be a Hall of Famer. Another thing that you'll see him do very well is going to be shown on a play like this, where again, same coverage. Green Bay would run this coverage, and a huge way they were able to do it is because they had Woodson who could make those types of plays where he could completely shut down a number 1 receiver. But what's going to happen is that's the route that Woodson is in charge of covering right here. And take a look at what Woodson does right when this ball is snapped. He's playing a little bit off right now. He's playing a little bit softly right here. And so for the Denver Broncos quarterback Kyle Orton, he's kind of saying, okay, this now means that when my receiver cuts up to the top half of the screen, there absolutely should be a window where I can try to make this throw. But also, one thing that's worth mentioning is if you look at Woodson, he's not just looking at the receiver, but he's also looking at Kyle Orton. He's looking at the quarterback. He's trying to get a read on this. He was one of the few guys who in man coverage would still look at the quarterback, and he was able to do it because he's so talented he can get away with it. So when Orton does make this throw, he's able to jump in front of it, get the interception, and take it all the way back to the house for a touchdown. And that's just what he was able to do. It's his intelligence of being able to look at the quarterback, and then also him just being such a naturally talented guy and such a freak athlete that he could get away with that kind of thing. So if he's looking at the quarterback and someone tries to run by him, he's totally capable of turning the shoulder and running with that receiver as well. So usually when you do that as a corner, it's a high risk, high reward. With Woodson, it's basically a no risk, high reward. So that's what made him so great. Sometimes when you're watching Woodson play, honestly, he doesn't even look that great sometimes when you're watching the beginning portion of the play. And what I mean by that is a play like this, where it's once again man coverage. This time I'll cover 1 play instead of a cover 2, but it's man coverage, and that's the route that Woodson is going to be covering on this play. He's playing press coverage here, and if you look after the ball is snapped, without a doubt, the Minnesota receiver he's covering gets a little bit by him here. So this makes sense if you're Minnesota to try to make this throw. But to me, this is not a mistake. I mean, for one thing, there's not actually that much separation, and as we know, Woodson can definitely break on the play, and he can finish plays so well, he'll probably end up knocking this ball away anyways. So, again, not a disastrous start by any means, maybe not an elite start like you would expect with a guy like Charles Woodson, but to me what makes this play so ridiculously good is that what do you see a lot of guys do when maybe they've lost a step on their receiver? Well, they'll just turn the shoulder and start playing the receiver. Just make sure you can try to get in their way to some degree. But even with Woodson having one of his worser starts to a play, he's still going to look back at the quarterback, which is crucial because this ball is underthrown, and because he was looking back, he's able to get the interception there, which he totally wouldn't have been able to do had he been, trying to play the receiver, had he turned his shoulders. He definitely hung with the play as long as he could and turned what was not a great start to a play into a tremendous finish to a play. And that's what I always talk about in terms of football players. The best football players find a way to minimize their mistakes and maximize their good plays. And here, Woodson was able to turn, a little bit of separation at the start into an interception. So that's just what he can do. And while I'm showing a lot of man coverage plays, without a doubt, Woodson can be very effective in zone as well. This play is a cover 2 zone, and what's going to happen is that the number 1 receiver on the top half of the screen is going to be running that route right there to get in the zone of the Green Bay defensive player who's on the top half of the screen. And then what they'll do is they'll send a number 2 receiver up like that, and this is a somewhat commonly used tactic where basically you have 2 players who are kind of in a zone, or at least near a zone, with only 1 Green Bay defender. So basically the Green Bay defender on the top half of the screen would have to choose one of the 2 lions to cover, and then you can throw it to the other one. Of course, the way to defend against that would be for Charles Woodson. He could run over, potentially, and try to make sure he covers up that lion player right over there. That's something he could do. But the thing about that for Detroit is they're actually totally okay with that, because they have their tight end basically going to fake as though he's going to be in a zone in the middle of the field, but then run up to Woodson's zones. So the idea basically is that Woodson gets out of position, and then a tight end is able to run over, get to where Woodson would be, and it can make the throw and get a catch. But as you see, right when this ball is snapped, you look, the Lions player is cutting up into Woodson's zone, but if you look at Woodson, he's so aware here. He's looking at the quarterback, looking to see where the ball could go to. It's insane awareness more than anything. But as you see, there's obviously a ton of separation right here. Maybe not that far down the field, it won't be a crazy play, but there's separation, and so you might as well make this throw. Except not when you're going up against Woodson. Watch how he finishes this play. That's just absurd and incredibly talented by Charles Woodson. But let's be honest, it wouldn't feel right making a Charles Woodson breakdown video if I didn't include some clips from him when he was an Oakland Raider. So let's show this one where he's actually going to be playing safety right here. It's going to be a cover 2 zone, and this is kind of an end of game scenario. The Chargers are going to take some chances, but what's going to happen is that it's a cover 2 zone, and there's a receiver running that route right there. It is going to get into Woodson's zone. Woodson is the safety who's deep on the bottom half of the screen. And take a look at what happens right when the ball is snapped. An Oakland player does kind of pick up on that Chargers receiver, but at the same time, you look at him, and there's clearly some separation towards the bottom part of the screen. So potentially, if you're Woodson, you might think that he should be going closer towards the sideline. But if you look at Woodson, he's running up to the top half of the screen. And you might be wondering, why is he doing that? But the reason why he's doing that is because he watched Phillip Rivers, already saw where the throw was going, and as the throw basically just left his hand, he instantly read where the ball was going to be going. So then he was able to run up to the top half of the screen because Rivers missed the throw and get the interception. And that's something that a lot of guys would not be able to do, just because how do you read that quickly where the ball is going? Literally the second it leaves Rivers' hand, he completely goes up to the top half of the screen and makes that catch. And if he was wrong about that, that could result in a touchdown. But he's so good at making those reads, he knew he wouldn't be wrong about it. And one other thing he was great at was being a great blitzer. The defensive back blitz is kind of a lost art to some degree. There certainly are still teams who like to have their defensive backs get into it, but Woodson was on another level, no doubt about it. That's where he is on the screen. Obviously, he doesn't want to just give away the fact that he's blitzing, so he is a little bit further deep, but he is going to, right before the ball was snapped, sort of step up, so now he has a position to potentially try to blitz. And I would imagine with Woodson, he was doing this a lot throughout the game, just to make sure that the Redskins don't immediately think that he's blitzing because he moved a couple of steps up. It's going to be a cover 1 play, and Woodson is going to be running like that, but watch basically just how quickly he's able to run here. That's what makes him so effective, is his speed and then his ability to make a tackle, but really just his speed to get there in the first place. It helps that he was unblocked, but he was largely unblocked because of what he did pre-snap to make sure that nobody saw him. And then, of course, what made him so effective at getting the sack was just his speed in general. And probably his most notable sack was one that actually didn't end up counting, although, let's be honest, it totally should have. It was the tuck rule game, where that's where he is on the screen, And for New England, what you would expect is that you have your left tackle who's in charge of covering a defensive end. That's just what you would expect. But then you have a player who's lined up right there. Typically, he would be blocking Woodson if Woodson is blitzing, and if Woodson is not blitzing, then he doesn't block him. But instead, what he's going to be doing is just running a route, which now means that Woodson, who is blitzing and it is on the line, will have a straight shot to get to Brady. Brady should have probably been a bit more aware of this at the time, but Brady has come a long way since then. He was a young player in this game. But what's crazy is just watch how Woodson is able to so quickly just run over and make that play, and even knocks the ball out. Again, it didn't count. It should have counted, in my opinion. I don't think the tuck rule was implemented correctly. I hear a lot of people saying that the tuck rule was the correct call. It just was a stupid rule. I don't even agree with that. I think it wasn't the correct call given the rule. But I mean, I had to bring that play up just because it was such an iconic Charles Woodson moment, even if it was kind of for the wrong reasons. It was a tremendous play by him in the biggest of moments to give his team what could have been a playoff victory. But yeah, Woodson was one of my favorite players to watch growing up for sure. One of the best cornerbacks to ever do it, and he will be a Hall of Famer. No doubt about it, so I figured, hey, let's have some fun and make a video about it. And also, just so you guys know, the reason why I haven't been uploading that much this past week, I mentioned before, I've been sick. I still am sick. It's been very frustrating. I've been sick for like a whole week at this point. Hopefully I'll start getting better soon. I feel a lot better today, so hopefully in the next couple of days I can get back to uploading constantly, but that's just why I haven't uploaded as much recently, so just so you guys know. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.